Our guy, Erik Erlendsson, lightninginsider.com. Use that promo code JNZ, get $10 off. Not just this season, but every recurring season after that. What's up, Double E? How are you?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
Oh, just talking some light. Actually kind of freaked out a little bit at like 12:30, about 12:30 about the Lightning a little bit. I got a little passionate, a little fiery about the team because I'm not sold on like, hey, the numbers are there. They're just going to automatically get better. And I watch this team, and I look at them and, there's talent, there's high end talent, but like there's no depth scoring. I don't know what this team's identity is. I hate watching a power play where Mitchell Chafee's in Braden Point's spot and Victor Hedman, who's one of the top 5 defensemen on the planet, it's not even on the first power play unit. Like, I feel like this far into the season, you should know where certain guys need to be, and you should know what a team's identity should be. And and I don't see it.
That's a lot to take in.
But yeah, I think you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, I got you.
One of those people that are like, fire this guy, trade for this guy. But it's just, we sat there, you were there, we were listening to Julian, and I always feel that if you are a team, you're a franchise, and you're just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, or you're just waiting for the numbers to balance out, like, you got to go make things happen. You can't just wait for the world to be like, it's your turn, right? Like, they got Maroon, they got Shattenkirk, like they went out and got Goodrow and Coleman. They finally traded first round picks, right? Instead of being like, let's hold on to these things like Stevie Y did. Like, sometimes you got to go out there and you got to churn the butter yourself. And I just feel like so many times with this team, if it's not Kucherov and it's not Point, it's not the top guys, like, they're just kind of looking around and waiting for something to happen. I don't know if that's a kind of a recipe for success. What say you?
Well, I don't know if they're waiting for something to happen. Let's start with the numbers, right? Julian pointed them out, and he's not wrong. The numbers, there are a lot of strong numbers that favor that this team should be higher in the standings. And, just this past couple of weeks, you look at some of the games, like you look at the Montreal game, like they should have won that game 5-2. Right? They got goalied. They got goalied by Sam Montembeault. They got goalied in Los Angeles by Darcy Kemper. They dominated the LA Kings for a majority of that game, couldn't score. And certainly lack of scoring depth factors into that, because it's great you got the only team with 4 20-goal scorers, but who is, kind of supporting that? I mean, we were so high on Anthony Cirelli. I think, did we have the conversation that Anthony Cirelli was going to hit 30 goals this year? I was like,
yeah.
I don't know.
We were wondering.
It's Anthony Cirelli, right? I mean, and he's had a great start, and and he's had a couple of really good looks here in the last little bit. And earlier in the year, they were going in for him. Right now, they're not going in for him, and part of that is hockey. It's just hockey. It just happens that way throughout the course of a season. So the numbers are there. But as we know, analytics do not tell the entire story. There is an eye test, and the game is not played via analytics. The game is played on the ice, and we know how much instincts are utilized in this game. Passion is a big part of this game. So a lot of that, look, you talk about team identity. I think the team identity is they work hard. You can fault them for not scoring. You can fault them for losing games. You can't fault their effort. I mean, they're showing in Detroit on Saturday at the end of that grueling stretch of 14 games in 24 days. Again, they should have won that game. They got goalied, and it's been happening a lot. I mean, look, even John Cooper used the phrase last night that we're making every goalie we faced right now look like a Vezina candidate. And that was the case last night against Soderblom. Right? Like, they had enough scoring chances in that game that they should have had more than one goal. So it's a dry spell right now. I think what you have to hope, and to kind of steal an analytical phrase, they regress to the mean, right? Like, you got to hope that those scoring chances start to pay off. And I think they will. There is a lot of talent on this team. And it is frustrating, but I can tell you, I don't think there's anybody more frustrated than the coaching staff right now, because they see that their guys are doing a lot of good things. And what happens when you're not scoring the goals this team has defensive warts. There is no doubt about it. And when you're not, I don't want to say outscoring your problems, but when you're not scoring goals to maybe cover up some of the mistakes, all of a sudden the mistakes are very glaring because they're costing you games. Just like the game against Montreal, where you do everything in the third period to go out and win a game that's tied 2-2 going to the third period. You can't score, and then you make a mistake, whether it's coverage mistake, whether it's somebody stepping up and trying to eliminate a play and you don't get it done, and you leave a guy wide open in front of the net and he scores a game-winning goal with 2 minutes to go. If they score two of the goals that they probably should have earlier in the period, we're not talking so much about that, but it cost them the game. It cost them 2 points against a division opponent. And those are the moments you're like, man, why can't they be better? So there's a lot to like about how the Lightning have played, but they're not getting any results for it. They're not getting rewarded for their work. And, we heard both Braden Point and Ryan McDonald last night use the word frustrated, and it is frustrating. Does that mean that they're a bad hockey team? No, I still think that this is a playoff team. I know the standings are tight. I know that the standings are closer than they certainly have been in the past number of years. You've got, a world-class goaltender. You've got world-class players. They're going to figure it out. I think that they're going to figure it out, and they're going to overcome some of these deficiencies. I think you just kind of have to get to the break here. Find a way to munch some points in these next 6 games before you get to the Four Nations break, and then you could kind of reset and then get ready for the stretch run.
Yeah, I think my problem is, and I'm not the most pessimistic person out there, and I'm not fire this guy and the season's over. I do think they're a playoff team, but I feel like, and you're not wrong, but I just feel like the more we talk about this team, it's sounding more and more like a lot of the things that happened in 2019. Outscore teams to cover up warts, like not outplay teams, outscore teams. Like we know that that's not a recipe for success. When we're saying like they're a hardworking team, and I don't disagree with that because I do think they work hard, but like that's like telling somebody they're a good parent. Like, wow, great, you're a good parent. Like you should be a good parent. Like you should be working hard, right? Like the fact that we have to give credit to teams for being hardworking, like that's what all great teams are, right? You know what I mean?
But there's a difference though, right? Like every team works hard.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the NHL and you're not working hard, you're not in the NHL.
Right.
I just think collectively this team, their work ethic is strong. That's kind of maybe the better way to put it, because they go out and they do bust their tails off. You see the passion, you see the enthusiasm, you see that they're trying to win games. So it's not like they're just kind of going through the motions. And we've seen teams like that in the past that kind of go through the motions. I think that 2019 team just kind of went through the motions because they knew they were so good they could outscore teams. I don't get that sense with this team. I don't think you can compare this team to that 19 team because they were so dominant in terms of how they could score goals. I just think the work ethic with this team is much better than that 19 team because they do know they have some deficiencies that they have to overcome.
So how do you fix those deficiencies? I know JJ Moser coming back is going to be a big help because I think it slots everything in. Yep. But you and I both know it's defensively, it's not just the defense, right? No. It's the forwards being able to come back and
it's
not make it's structurally huge. Turning the puck over, Cooch throwing the puck in front of the other net last night, Hedman with the turnover. Like, I think that's what gets me too, is that, okay, can get better, but it's also up here where it's like some of their better players are making mistakes. It'd be one thing if it was Declan Carlisle and Mitchell Chafee making these mistakes, but when Kucherov and Hedman are making some of the mistakes too, that's where I think the Lightning really, yes, the break is going to help for Kucherov. Hedman's not going to get that break, but I think the top guys too need to take a look in the mirror a little bit and be like, we got to play better too, right? Like they got to take ownership of this too.
They got to play smarter is what it comes down to, because you can't let the lack of scoring right now frustrate you to the point where you cheat the game. And I don't think I've seen that necessarily, but you have to play smarter. I mean, the play by Hetty last night, there's no reason to make that pass. Right? I mean, you're not thinking, and we know how elite players think. They never think that things are going to go the way they can't see it, right? They think that they see the things working out every time, and it doesn't always go that way. But Darren Radish took a spill in the corner in the offensive zone. He was slow to get up and kind of make his way back towards the bench. Hedman's under no pressure with the puck at his own blue line. And instead of recognizing that his defensive partner is not there, he could have easily just kind of taken that puck behind the net, let things kind of develop that way. But he tried to make a play. And that's where you just got to be smarter. And again, it gets highlighted because that ends up being the game-winning goal in the game, but it's still not a smart play. You have to be more aware. And I think that's what is probably frustrating with this team more than anything else, is they don't seem to make good decisions with the puck. Right. They don't seem to make good decisions when it comes time to – and look, I sort of highlighted a lot of this on the website during specifically the road trip, where you're watching the defensive zone, the coverage, like 5 guys are on the same area of the ice. Why are 5 guys in the same area of the ice? So we can talk about lack of depth scoring, which they don't have any. But to me, at the end of the day, the biggest thing this team needs to fix is their mental, their decision-making with the puck, and their coverage. And this is on both. This is on the players and the coaches, because the players have to make smarter decisions with the puck, and the coaches got to fix this. They've got to fix this. There is no reason to have 5 guys within a 10-square-foot radius of the puck and leaving so much open space behind you. That's how you get a Jake Evans to score a game-winning goal with 2 minutes to go, because you have everybody on the same side of the ice. That's the coaches. They have to fix that part. The players have to be smarter with the puck. That's my assessment of kind of how things need to change.
You know who you sound like right there.
Uh-oh. Chief?
That's all we hear. Why are there 5 guys on the corner? It happens all the time. We had this conversation the other day, and obviously I didn't play at pro hockey level, but I was a defenseman, and I knew that if the puck was in the corner, there was one guy that had to stay away. And I understand, like, I'm trying to think of, all right, well, they probably think not all 5 guys on the other team are going to be in there. So if they outnumber those guys, it gives them a better chance to retrieve the puck. But as we see with this Tampa Bay Lightning team, with 3 guys specifically, Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, and Jake Gensel, they can be 1-on-3 and still control the puck. And when they pass the puck, what happens? You have advantages for you on other sides of the ice and a lot more room to play with. And it's weird to me that the Tampa Bay Lightning have players on their team that are able to function when they don't have the numbers advantage. But defensively, it doesn't resonate with them of like, hey, we got to make sure that we're a little bit more balanced on the ice. Is that defensive structure? Because Eric, there's puck battles for a while. It wasn't like, oh, it's like little kids playing soccer. Like, oh, they just all went over here. Like at times they're sitting there and they're jockeying for the puck for 15, 20, 25 seconds. And they're not worried about the guy behind him at all. That's got to be a structure thing. Is that something that they've always done? Like, how do they not see that as NHL coaches and think that's not right?
Well, that's of the many times we've used the word frustrating, that's the most frustrating thing, because it happens game after game.
Right.
Even like when Guy Boucher came up, right, and he had this new system. And, we can talk about the forecheck and the whole situation with the Flyers when Peter Laviolette told his team not to go after the puck, and it was a stalemate. And the essence of Guy Boucher's system was they wanted to surround the puck in the corner along the boards with 3 players. That didn't work. The Lightning are asking 5 players to do it, and it's not working. Like too many times. Like it logically, yeah, of course it makes sense. We're going to outnumber them. Of course we're going to win the puck. Those are National Hockey League players.
Right.
These are the best of the best. There's a good chance that they can win a puck battle even outnumbered. And when they do, now you're screwed. And that's happened too often, that the Lightning are trying to outnumber, but they're not winning the puck. And, to your point, and at least with Guy's system, that second defenseman usually wasn't a guy who engaged in that puck battle. They did hold back. Now you're seeing both defensemen kind of get engaged. And just too many times you're leaving that front wide open, the middle area of the ice. They talk a lot about wanting to protect the middle area of the ice, but that's the area we keep talking about is left wide open. And like there's different ways to kind of talk about structure, because like if the puck's at the point, they collapse. They try and prevent shots from even getting there, right? They want to front shots. They want to make sure that they're taking away shooting lanes. But again, these are National Hockey League players who know how to get around this stuff. So they're not even challenging the puck, and to Chief's point, again, I sit and talk to Chief a lot and pick his brain. They give up the blue line so easily. They allow players, National Hockey League players, skilled players, time and space to make plays. They can make plays, right? So they're not challenging at the blue line. They're not even challenging at the red line. When this team is at their best, two things are happening. Their forecheck is relentless, and they're the ones winning the puck battles in the offensive zone. And they're holding, if not the red line, the blue line. And too many times we've seen them back off of the blue line and try and let the back checking forward take the puck. And when you do that, you allow a lot of space. And so to me, that's the part that's coaching. That's obviously a system top thing. And it's just not consistent enough to prevent some of these goals against that are happening against the Lightning. And then when you're not scoring, that's when things get magnified.
Double E, I know the team practiced today at Amalie Arena at around 11:30. What can you tell us about who was on the ice, who wasn't on the ice, and all that jazz?
I'll be honest with you, I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. I'm trying to fight off
something
that's happening. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to get as much rest as I can. So I was not at practice today, and I have not checked my Twitter feed. So
all right, let me check it for you. That's why we have another Double E. We have the all right. Well, it looked like Kucherov and Gergeson's out, receiving body maintenance days. No Andrei Vasilevsky on the ice either. And we know that it was an illness for Andrei Vasilevsky. Let's just hope that we see him back out there tomorrow. But how do you think Johansson played last night?
I thought he was fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think Johansson's been fine throughout most of the year. I like every time he gets a start, I got to hear it from a lot of Twitter followers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's another loss. Oh, it's like his numbers since November are in line with Vazzy's.
Yeah, the first couple of games were ugly, and it distort the whole thing.
Yeah, but he gave his team a chance to win, just as he's done throughout most of his starts. I think I looked up the number heading into last night, so it's a little bit lower after last night's game. He was 5-3, 2.39 goals against, and .915 save percentage in his previous 8. Yeah. Save percentage is going to drop a little bit. 3 goals on 19 shots, I think. Yeah. 3 goals on 20 shots. So those numbers are going to go down a little bit. But he's done exactly what you would hope a goalie in his situation, knowing he was only starting in back-to-backs or maybe once every 10 days, has done, and that's give his team a chance to win. The game against Chicago on Friday. That game could have gotten away from Tampa Bay. They were down 3-1. It could have been 4-1. He didn't let in the fourth goal. And the team did come back. So he's done his job. I don't have any problems with Johansson the way he's played. The Connor Bedard shot was just ridiculous.
Yeah, we didn't even know how it went in.
Yeah. I looked over you. I said, how in the hell did that puck go in? And then you look at the replay and you see the window is like this big. And somehow he found that corner. And, reading some of the Chicago writers, like he's been working on that shot. Like this is elite skill players. They can do things that you don't think humans should be able to do. And he found that window and just a ridiculous shot. You can't fault him on that one. The game-winning goal was a rebound off the end boards, not the goalie's fault. Maybe you'd like for him to come up with the save on the one that ended up being the winning goal there late in the second period. I'm not faulting him for not stopping it. Maybe you want him to, but it is a clean look from the top of the circle, and I think he was screened a little bit.
Yeah, it was a quick release too. Drop pass, quick release. So, we're kind of talking a mission. Espo about it before. Yeah, I'm with you. Should he have stopped it? No. Could he have stopped it? Yes. I think is
Yeah.
probably the best way to
Good
put
point.
it. We heard the announcement yesterday, Double E, about the quarter century teams, and I got 9 out of the 10 guys correctly, even though I had the defenseman switched. But we find out that it's Steven Stamkos, it's Martin St. Louis, Nikita Kucherov, with Victor Hedman and Dan Boyle, with Andrei Vasilevsky for the first team. Second team, Braden Point, Vinny LeCavalier, and Brad Richards, with Pavel Kubina and Ryan McDonough, with Ben Bishop as the goalie. I thought the only thing that I had different, I had Hobby Bullen as the goalie because he won the cup, and I just had Kubina and Boyle and McDonough switched. Any surprises there for the quarter century team? I think it's pretty cool what the NHL has done this year.
Yeah, I mean, in full fairness, I did have a vote in that
Nice.
quarter century team, and I had all of them except I actually had Andre Palat over Brad Richards,
Wow.
which was a difficult decision for me to make because Brad Richards obviously was an integral part of the Cup team in 2004 and the Conn Smythe winner, and obviously a fantastic player. I just felt that Palat's overall impact. I keep thinking back to everybody wanted to play with Andre Palat because of just how he played the game, right? He's just a no-nonsense guy. His plus-minus numbers, I know that's not always indicative, but they were always so much better than most of the players on his team when it came to that. So he was a defensive winger, a guy that at least had some Selke consideration. He was never nominated for the award, but he had some Selke consideration. So I had Palat over Richards, and I too struggle with the decision between Habby Bullen and Bishop because obviously Habby Bullen led them to the Cup. That always factors in, and I just again took into account overall impact, right. And it's hard to say that Habby Bullen didn't have an impact because he changed the way the team could play. And that's one thing that John Tortorella always talked about. Gave them some confidence, right? A young team with, the young Vinnies, the young Brads, the young Martys, the young Freddie Modines, gave them confidence to play. That if they made a mistake, there was a good chance that he could cover it up. But you look at, Bishop in a lot of ways did the same thing, right? He took that team to a Stanley Cup final in 2015. Right?
They weren't ready. They were not ready.
Right. They were ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, and he was here a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. He passed the torch to Andrei Vasilevsky. He understood that he was here basically as a quote unquote stopgap who turned into be a Vezina caliber goaltender. And
yeah, he was phenomenal.
So I did struggle with the Habby Bullen versus Bishop, and I just looked at overall length and impact that Bishop had compared to Habby Bullen. Having said that, you couldn't go wrong, I think, with either guy because Habby was such a great guy for a couple of years. But, there's this thing too. Going into the playoffs in 2004, they weren't sure who was going to be the number one guy, whether it was going to be Habby Bullen or John Graham, because Habby Bullen wasn't playing that well and John Graham was. It sounds ridiculous to think otherwise right now, but at that time there was some debate. So that's why. So it's interesting. It's nice that the league is doing this, because it kind of brings a spotlight too to some players for franchises that maybe, right. Didn't realize the impact that they had. And I think that's kind of the way that this Lightning team was. And it's great because you have to select from the 2004 team that won a cup. And then you have a chance to select from this generation of players who won 2 cups.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, there was anybody else, like who would have been the 5th defenseman?
That is an excellent question. Anton Stroman could be there. He was a steady presence and a really good partner. Sergachev would be in that conversation. Corey Saric might be in that conversation. There's in the forwards. If you're going to start going into 9 and 12 forwards, that's when it starts to kind of really become interesting.
Yeah, then I think Palat makes the team. Killorn is another guy that I thought on the outside, could be in that kind of periphery there. I thought the defenseman was tough, man, because there's been some change. There's been, do you go with Jason Cullimore? Do you go with a guy that's, you know what I mean? Guys weren't there that long,
Darren Rumble.
Darren Rumble. There you go.
Hey, his name's on the cup.
You got that right, buddy. All right. So what is the big thing that the Bolts got to focus on tomorrow night and kind of the rest of this kind of homestand before we take this break?
Well, they're going to catch the Kings in the second half of back-to-back. LA plays at Florida tonight. So it's the rarity, it seems like, the Lightning catching a team coming in, the Lightning are rested, and they're catching a team coming off a back-to-back. So you have that kind of going for them. It's find a way to score some goals. You do that, you start to take some of this pressure off, because I don't have the number in front of me. I think they have not won a game this year where they've scored fewer than 3 goals.
That's crazy to me.
Which is, like, you have to be able to win games 2-1.
Yeah.
And they haven't been able to do that. You think back to the California trip, right? Like, they lost 2-1 to San Jose. They lost 2-1 to LA. The Anaheim game was basically a 2-1 game until late in the third period when they were pushing, right? Like, you have to be able to win those kind of games. They haven't been able to do that. So, yeah, obviously defensively they need to be better, but you have to score some goals in this league. So I think if they do that, it'll take some of the pressure off. And we'll see. Like, that first game back from a road trip tends to be a struggle. Right. And I don't think they struggled last night. Obviously they could have played better. I thought they sagged when they didn't score on that 4-minute power play. I think their game sagged. They were 5 seconds away from a momentum boost after killing off the 5-on-3, and then Connor Bedard gets off this ridiculous shot to tie the game. I think they sagged for the rest of the second period. And then again, having to chase the game, I thought they pushed well enough in the third period. They didn't. I mean, again, Soderblom with some of the saves, it's that kept that game from tilting back in Tampa Bay's favor. But I think you score a couple of goals early. You take some of that pressure off, and they can kind of get back to playing a little bit more in tune or focused, and it just takes some of that burden off of them against a very good LA team who has struggled of late. I think I saw they're 2-5-1 in their last 8 heading into tonight. So as good of a season as LA has had, they've kind of had their struggles of late too, as all teams do. All teams will go through a stretch. All good teams will go through a stretch during the season where you're kind of struggling and you can't find ways to pick up wins, and you have to fight through it. So that's what they have to do. Nolan Pratt.
Nolan Pratt. Okay.
I'm answering a question down there.
Okay. Yeah. Former Bolt D-man who's an assistant coach. Yeah, there you go. Nolan Pratt.
Nolan Pratt, who saved that 2004 playoffs because Jason Cullimore went down in the first round against the Islanders. And Prater had to step up and take on the role of Jason Cullimore and did it fantastic. He did a fantastic job to the point where they kept Pratt in the lineup. Even when Cullimore was healthy, Cully didn't come back until Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final against Philadelphia. That's how long Cullimore was out. And then they ended up dressing 7 defensemen for that. So Nolan Pratt was a big part of why the team was able to survive that series against Philadelphia and obviously go on to beat Calgary in the final.
That's why you want to subscribe to lightninginsider.com, because that's the kind of stuff that you get from our guy, Erik Erlendsson. Use that promo code JNZ, get $10 off, not just this year, but every recurring year after that. Erik_Erlendsson, that's a K, not a C, 2 S's after the D on Twitter /XE. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you so much. And we'll see you tomorrow right at Amalie Arena.
Thanks. And be kind to Dan Lucas. He's one of my favorites.
Nah, I can't do it. See you, brother. All right.